Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. You're listening to this on Monday, February 3rd. Dave, are we on Fraud Watch right now?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, we got to eat a little crow, but, good teams win and they can beat other good teams. I mean, it does.
Absolutely.
Just because a team loses doesn't mean they're a fraud. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it, and I'm sure people know what we're talking about, but, I don't think fraud is the right word.
Yeah, I mean, eating crow. Let's get started with that. We'll talk about the game itself. I do want to say this. I don't owe this to anybody, but I do want to say it. If Puxico plays like that every single game, I was wrong. They're the best team in Stoddard County. Probably one of the best teams in the area. Final Four easy. That's my statement on it.
I will not go that far. I mean, I think that they played very well, and I've not seen them play like that all year. That's why I didn't have them number one in my poll. I had them in 3 in my poll. They played out of their minds, and that's fantastic. And if they can continue that, then maybe I'll back off my district thing where I'm not sure that they'll get out of districts. I don't know if they're a Final Four team. I mean, there's a lot of other teams that they're going to have to battle. I don't think that would be a guarantee, but they would definitely be Final Four caliber. The way they played. At the same time, I need to see them do this more than one game, because the team that I saw in the Christmas tournament, the team that I saw play Dexter earlier this year, that's not a team that is a Final Four caliber team. So this is as good as I've seen them play, and if they continue that, then you're right. I mean, they're a team that's going to have to be. But at the same time, I mean, is this a one-off? You asked me in the Dexter after Dexter played in the Christmas tournament. You said, is this kind of a one-off tournament, or are they going to play that way the rest of the year, or can they do this the rest of the season? And I'm asking you the same thing, because I don't know. I hope that they can play this way the rest of the season. If they do, then I will be high on Puxico the rest of the way.
Yeah, if you ask me, I mean, if you ask anybody from Puxico, they think that this is what the standard is. And if this is what the standard is, I think this is probably the best team in the area. Yeah,
and I agree with that. If they play like this week or game after game, week after week, the rest of the way, then they've earned that standing. But again, they've not done that. Puxico fans are walking around with their chests out, and they should be, because that was a heck of a performance they put on. Great defensively, offensively. I mean, Parsley went nuts, and I mean, you got a lot of. They just punched Woodland in the mouth, and Woodland folded. I mean, it was just from the very beginning. Woodland just folded
from tip off.
Yeah, from tip on. It was just a punch in the mouth. And what is it Mike Tyson says? That everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And Woodland just did not handle it well. I thought they played very soft. And but Puxico, I thought they're a very tough team. They are very tough, and they're a team that they stepped up to the challenge. I think they heard a lot of talk about, I'm sure us and others talk about how Woodland was probably the better team, and I think they took it personally, and they should have, and they played the way that I think at the beginning of the year I thought that they would play, and it's good to see, and hopefully they continue that.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is, like, if it's just a caught in your feels, like we have to play out of our minds kind of game. I mean, I would expect maybe a 10-point finisher. I did not expect them to absolutely dog walk Woodland the entire game.
Yeah, and again, I thought, to get on Woodland a little bit, I thought they played extremely soft. And I mean, you've got to be tougher than that. I mean, if you're as good as we thought you were, I mean, then you just can't just fold like a tent, and they just folded. At the same time, it's one game. I mean, they've played well this entire year, and everybody has a bad game. These two teams will play again in February or later this month. And we'll see how they match up a second time. My guess is I'm not going to say that Woodland's going to win the game. I don't think it's going to be a turbo clock for, I just don't.
Yeah, if you had that on your bingo card,
Yeah,
I mean, what kind of psychic are you? Because none of us considered like even the possibility that was going to be a turbo clock.
Right. Puxico winning that game is not surprising. Puxico winning that game in the manner they did is surprising. And I was just very surprised that Woodland just kind of folded a little bit. And, and again, I thought they played really soft. Woodland was coming after them, jumping them at the 3-point line, getting some steals. And they were Woodland just did not handle that at all. It was just like it was a shock to them at what they were doing, and you've got to be able to know that that's what Puxico does. And I mean, Puxico is a very good team defensively, and you've got to know that. And I'm going to be anxious to watch Puxico the rest of this season to see if they continue this. It was a great performance by Puxico, and they should be proud. The fans should be walking with their chest puffed out. But don't get too ahead of yourself here, because this is Class 2's tough. Class 2 is really, really tough, and there's a lot of good teams in there, and so we'll see how this plays out.
I don't want any more smoke, so I'm just going to be pro Puxico for right now.
Oh, and I'm definitely pro Puxico, but I'm just not going to buy into they're like a guaranteed Final Four team, and they're going to. I mean, there's a lot of tough games left. The Class 2's tough. I mean,
we knew that all year.
Yeah, just look down south. There's some good teams, and there's some teams in their district that's going to be tough, regardless of what people think about looking at records or whatever. There's some teams in there that's going to be really tough, and so we'll see how it plays out.
Well, let's work backwards a little bit. Stoddard County was what's your kind of like your rating for this tournament this year?
This is a letdown to me.
Think so?
It was. I mean, I wanted to see a lot. The championship game was what I wanted to see, but it was just a blowout, just terrible game. I'll be honest, I turned it off at halftime. There was no need to watch it any more than that. The Dexter Burney game was fine. I mean, it was kind of what you expect, a normal Dexter Burney game. And but other than that, there really wasn't any close games that really interested me. So it was. I was really hoping for a lot of close games, and we really thought we were going to get that, and we just didn't. So out of a 1 to 5 scale, I'll give it a 2.
Okay. Well, let's start from what we kind of have to catch up with on Wednesday. I feel like this was kind of like I don't want to say turning point towards where things ended up, but like this was just kind of like the most letdown day. Not really a letdown, but just like who cares?
Yeah.
Bloomfield versus Bell City ended that game 43-48.
Yeah, we said Bell City might win that game, in our last pod, and that wasn't surprising. Bell City's better than what people think. And Bell City, ended up playing Richland in that consolation final, and Richland pulled that out. That was a game that was kind of interesting, because if Richland doesn't pull that out, does Bell City get the top seed in that district? I mean that's very legit, because they would have beat them 2 out of 3.
Yeah. Well, next up, I've got Richland versus Advance 52-48. I do want to get your take on this game, because I've got some opinions on it.
Yeah, Richland I don't know if there's some sickness going on there. Richland just did not look right in the first 2 games of this tournament. They did look better against Bell City, but they did not look right in those first 2 games. And I don't know what the issue was, but they just didn't look right.
Yeah, same kind of thing I saw was just like, I don't know if it's just losing in the main bracket. And we've talked about that before. Is like, what's your mentality going into consolation bracket? I don't know. They just look like they kind of were coasting. Yeah. Just like, well, we're here. That's it.
Now, Richland is not playing. This time last year, Richland was playing really well. They won the county, and they were playing really, really well, and they kind of fed off that going into districts and stuff. They're not doing that now. I feel like they're not playing as well for whatever reason. They've got Woodland coming up. I think they've got Woodland coming up soon, but they're going to have to figure something out.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on there, but they don't look good. They don't look like a team that's going to be challenging making any run in Class 1. I just really don't see that from them. What I've seen the last couple of games,
and they have all the pieces. It all could be there. It's just not.
Excuse me. They play Puxico next. Good luck.
Yeah.
Puxico's playing the way they were playing. Good luck with that. So So Richland better figure something out quick.
Well, let's move on to Thursday's games for Stoddard County then. Richland and Bell City. This is obviously this game had some implications knowing how Richland played them at Oran and then afterwards in regular season, 1-for-1 on the season. I'm good. It's good that Richland pulled this out, but this was one that I was like, this could go either way.
Yeah, and it was close to the end. And I'll say this: Richland again is very fortunate to get out of there with a win. Probably locked up the number 1 seed in districts with that win. But if you're looking and you're probably getting Bell City and Leopold as a 2-3 in some form or fashion, I think I want to play Leopold in that championship game and not Bell City again, because Bell City's proven that they can play with Richland, and they beat them once and played them close every time.
I don't know if Stoddard County announces an all-tournament team after the fact. I don't think they do it like during the tournament itself. At least I didn't hear anything about it. Juan Hernandez belongs on all-tournament team.
He's a good player. Good player.
He's so fun to watch. He's so sneaky, and that his 3 potential is just crazy.
Yeah, good player. And Bell City, just again, even though they won that Orient tournament, I still think they're flying under some people's radar because they've had some bad losses. They haven't, they've had some injuries. They haven't, they just haven't had that one outside of that Richland win. They've just not had another big win. But man, they're a good basketball team. They are not the Bell City that has been playing for the last few years and just kind of getting a few wins, not looking very good. This is a different Bell City team, and I'm telling you what, if you're Richland, I don't want to play them a 4th time. I don't care where it is. I don't want to play them again.
Yeah, because they're starting to get your number.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not afraid of you at all.
No.
And, Bell City could have won that game, Thursday night. I mean, it was just, Bell City, or Richland made a couple plays down at the end. But, man, I think if you're Richland, even though Leopold is better than what they showed against them the last time, I think I'd rather play a Leopold team than I would a Bell City.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's move on to Dexter and Puxico, 46-61.
That's more what I thought Puxico should look like.
It's their best win against Dexter.
Right. And we've thought that Puxico was better than Dexter all year. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of what they showed is 15 points. And they just, defensively, they played a lot better. They were able to hit some shots. Burchard in the first half just absolutely dominated that game. Yeah. Burchard was just single-handedly, I felt, in that first half. And in the second half, Dexter kind of locked him down a little bit, didn't give him much, but Hancock just stepped up. Mm-hmm. And, and that's what you expect to see from Puxico is that good defense and Burchard, having a good game. And I think this kind of was a building block for them for the Friday night game against Woodland. Dexter, on the other hand, could they miss any more shots close to the rim? Again, they kind of solved that against Richland, but apparently not against Puxico because they just missed shot after shot right by the rim. It's the same old thing for them. If they hit those shots, it's a different game.
It's a different game.
But you've got to be able to make those, and they've not proven that they've been able to make those consistently this year. Yeah,
and I think the biggest thing is to talk about is Puxico's defense. And, Puxico's defense is pretty immaculate right now, and we can see that in this game and Friday's game. But, for Dexter is you didn't really need to have that great of a defense against them because they'll play themselves all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say this about Dexter. Ibrahim is getting better. He's from the beginning of the season to where he is now. I think he's getting a lot better. I like seeing him being active inside the way he is. He's getting a lot better. I do like that. But and Dexter, again, too many turnovers. It was the same thing that's beat them all year. Turnovers and too many shots around the rim that they just weren't able to make. And it's just the same thing that, it was just the same thing that's been all year.
Yeah. You got to consider that, Dexter beating Richland on, was it Monday or Tuesday? Mm-hmm. It's just, you're at that point, you're overextending your expectations. It's just regardless of what happens, but, you got to come to play when you play Puxico at this point, mm-hmm. because, Puxico, whether people like it or not, we're the 1 seed. And, showed it all throughout the tournament is that they're the team to beat. They know who they are now, and that's fine. Nobody really came to play them like they probably should have.
Yeah, and Dexter looked tired. Especially in the second half, Dexter just looked really tired.
They've got no bench.
And again, yeah, they're only playing with 7 guys, and you get extended so much energy on Monday night. it was tough, and they looked tired to start the game against Boerne. I mean, they looked. I mean, up until a little pep talk there early fourth quarter by Coach Allen. I mean, Dexter was just kind of seemed like they were just going through the motions, and then all of a sudden, after Coach Allen's little pep talk, seemed like they played with a little more fire. Just Dexter seemed tired, and again, I don't know, sickness could be sickness. I don't know. I mean, again,
it's a good excuse.
It's a great excuse, but even sick, you should be able to make some of those, baskets right by the rim. I don't know. It's just, and it's something that's been all year. So, I don't know. But Puxico was definitely the better team. They beat Dexter 3 times this year. I mean, you can't.
No, that's not debatable. They're the better team.
It's absolutely not debatable. They were the better team. Even though I thought Dexter should have won that first game for sure in the Christmas tournament, they just.
Oh, they threw away a 13-point lead.
Yeah, they threw it away. And then the game at Dexter, I mean, it was both of those teams. I felt both of those teams were just going through the motions.
That one kind of just felt like a flu game, in total. I mean,
and then to the last minute, Puxico was like, "We're not losing these guys," and then they just kind of turned it on. And then that's pretty much the way they played the entire game against Dexter. I mean, the Puxico was the better team. I'm just, but at the same time, I just, I don't know. I don't know about.
It's more frustration at this point.
But for Puxico, good for them, and they're just. Again, I thought that was a building block because they played well, but they played even better the next night against Woodland. So again, a kind of a building block for Puxico, and maybe getting to where we thought Puxico was going to be all year, because this is the right time to peak if you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Boerne versus Woodland, 68-90. I think this was the game that kind of told me is like, okay, this matchup between Puxico and Woodland is going to meet all its billing, because look at the score disparity between these two teams and who they're playing and everything like that. But let's go ahead and talk about this game, because I feel like this is where I thought Woodland's offense was going to make up for all Puxico's defensive play. Didn't happen, but at the same time, Boerne's a very defensive team. Jason Long is pretty much a defensive mastermind, and Woodland's offense just did what Woodland does at that point.
Yeah, one thing that they were able to do, Woodland was getting up and down the floor.
Yeah.
Boerne kind of played into their hands, I think, a little bit early. We're playing up and down the floor. And, Coach Long did a great job. Like every stoppage of plays, making a sub, trying to keep them fresh. At the same time, that eventually just wore down. I think, Woodland just keeps coming at you, and they just kept coming at them in the second half. And Woodland's just better. I mean, than Boerne. It's just that way. That didn't play out the next night. But Hobgood, how good was he in that first half? I mean, man, he 5 of 5 from 3, and he just was unstoppable. Boerne didn't have that in the second half. I think Boerne shot like 68% in the first half. You're just not going to shoot that. That's just not sustainable. You just can't do that for an entire game. And whenever they came back down to reality, Woodland was able to take advantage of that and get up and down the floor and get some easy buckets, and Woodland pulled away.
Well, I think what Woodland's biggest strength in this game, and what you think would be their typical strength, is that they're so solid on fundamentals that they just wear teams down. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a lot of bench depth, then you can't really just compete with them long term. I mean, Boerne hung with them in the first, they didn't pull away. Woodland didn't pull away until when?
Oh, it was second half, because I think it was a close game at halftime.
Yeah.
And so, they pulled away quickly in the second half. I mean, second half they just jumped out, and I remember Coach Long calling a quick timeout, but it was just what. I was on the air of that game, and we were talking about how the first 3 minutes of that third quarter were going to be big for both teams, mm-hmm. and Woodland just dominated those 3 minutes. And so then Hobgood missed a 3, and they really couldn't get him open, and they just it just really kind of went south after that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if this discussion feels like it doesn't really have much wind behind it, but we know where this ends up is the problem, and so. Moving on to Friday, let's talk about Dexter and Boerne really quick, because I think that was a good game. Yeah,
it was. I mean, anytime those two teams play, even if it's in a third place game, they just don't like each other. I mean, they're rivals. You're going to have a good game. Boerne, Dexter kind of jumped out early. Boerne just kept coming at him, and got a lead.
What a 3-for-3 game.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, like I said, Coach Allen, early fourth quarter, just kind of called a timeout and kind of lit into him a little bit. And sometimes you just have to get get their attention. And then Dexter came out with some great energy and just outscored them. I think it was like 17. I can't remember what it was, but they outscored them big and just kind of took it to them. And Temple's had a big game at like 21 points,
something like that.
And I don't think Hopgood scored. So I mean, he just couldn't get going. Dexter did a nice job on him, and then when he did, he just couldn't get going. But Temple's, I mean, he plays really well against Bernie.
Yeah, I don't know why that defensive scheming, they can't just put somebody on him all the time. I mean, I get it, but I don't at the same time, because it's just like, but he's like one of the biggest threats for 3-point shooting, so why not always have somebody on him?
It's kind of one of those where you hope he's not hot, because I mean, if it's not him, you got Geatley who can shoot a little bit, Sepulvedo can shoot it a little bit out there, so you're kind of picking your poison. I think they're like, well, Temple's, Bernie usually zones, so it's good to, Dexter knows how to play against that zone. And these teams have played each other so many times and see each other a lot. They're very familiar with each other. And it was just, I just thought the end, Bernie had too many turnovers. That's one thing that's kind of gotten Bernie, is a lot of turnovers, too many turnovers in that fourth quarter. And Dexter was able to rally and get that win.
Absolutely. However, how good was Blaine Morgan that game?
Oh, he's good. I mean, he's really good.
Just played out of his mind, too.
If you get Morgan and Hopgood going in the exact same game, they're tough to beat. I mean, you just got to get them going at the same time. I mean, and then you have Acock in the middle. I mean, that's a good 1, 2, 3. And it's just, you got to get them going at the same time, and it just doesn't always happen. Which
I think the benefit is, like, this is still a young team. Who knows what they're going to all look like as seniors? I don't know how old Hopgood is, but
he's a sophomore as well. I think they're mostly sophomores.
Yeah. So I mean, all three of those pieces and anything else Coach Long wants to add, and then make them all seniors. I mean, I think that's going to be a team that's definitely competing for a lot.
I mean, let's look at this tournament. You got Bell City on the rise. You got Dexter, who's mostly younger guy. They only have Temples is the only senior, so they're going to have everybody back next year. They won the JV title too, so they're going to have some guys coming up. You're going to have this Bernie team that's mostly sophomores that's going to make a run. Woodland's got a lot of juniors, so they're going to be good next year. You still got Burchard and a couple of Hancock, I believe, is a junior for Puxico. So I mean, you got a lot of guys from Puxico coming back. This tournament's going to be good again next year.
Yeah, you think it's going to be better than a 2-star?
I hope it's better than a 2-star next year. I mean, we thought all year long this was going to be a really good tournament, and we have good teams there. Just the games weren't, the games just didn't play out that way.
Yeah, I don't like saying I shot call anything, but I had this like feeling of just like, I just don't think this is going to be that great of a tournament. Like in the back of my head, I mean, it's hard to say that in the moment, especially on air, because like you want to bring a lot of energy to the event you're about to cover, but at the same time, I was like, I just can't bring myself to hype it up that much.
I mean, and you look at the teams and the way they matched, kind of, set up. You thought maybe on paper it looked like this was going to be a really good tournament. Just the games didn't play out that way, and you get that sometimes. We had Christmas tournaments that we thought were going to be great that just didn't live up to the billing. This year, fortunately, it did. But it's just the way it is sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but still, it was a good tournament. I mean, I guess, but I would have liked seeing some better games.
Which I mean. And take that with our grain of salt, is like being like broadcast guys is like, well, we want every game to be a 5-point, 3-point affair, where it's just like, I want this disparity to be like super clutch all the time. For Puxico, chest puffed out, they proved who they are. They won outright, just the cleanest sweep you could make of this tournament.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean
amazing tournament for them.
Yeah. Great tournament for them. Good for them. Well, let's continue that. If you're Puxico, let's build, not just, rest on our laurels here, and let's continue to play well this way all year. And if you're Coach Fernetti, I'm like, you know how well your team can play now. And I would expect that every time out. And if they don't give it, that's when you can kind of get after them a little bit and say, look, this is what we need to be, not what we were. This is what we need to be the rest of the way. And if they can be that, I mean, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about another couple Thursday games that I've got listed. I've got Risco and Hawkham listed because of 34-83. Risco is rolling. And, I mean, quality opponents are hard to find.
Yeah, Tri-County is down this year with the exception of Risco. So you're not going to get the games that I think Risco is probably going to need. Risco is just doing what they need to do, is just go out and just take care of business and put it on them early, and then get to the next game. Just continue to win, stay healthy, and just hopefully improve. You don't get. I don't think you get much out of these games, but you can't. When your conference is down, there's nothing you can really do.
Yeah, I for Risco, I feel like that's what a problem to have is that you're too good.
Yeah, just
for everybody like in your conference.
Yeah, beating everybody by 40, 50 points.
But what's the solution to that? I mean,
well, there's no solution. It just is what it is because you're not going to pull out of a conference for 1 year. I mean, and they try to play good. I mean, they got in a Christmas tournament. They've tried,
which I think was great for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great experience for them. And they played well in the Christmas tournament as well. So don't outside of what a 2-point loss to Dexter. I mean, they played really. I mean, and they played well that game. It was just look. It is what it is sometimes, and just have to keep getting better. They do play Richland, I think, here later this month. That'll be a good game, and you just take advantage of the games that that you have in front of you. You just try to get better.
Yeah, I agree, and it's difficult because I want to coach up Risco as much as possible because we put them in our top 5 every week. And I like seeing they're a fun team. I don't want to say it's because it's one of those problems. It's just like, who do you play?
Yeah, we'll find out in districts. Last year districts they didn't step up to the challenge. We'll see if they can this year. I mean, but again, I think I really do think playing in the Bloomfield tournament is going to help them. I really think that that's a big boost for them. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean. There's just not much you can do about when your conference is as down as theirs is this year.
Let's talk about the other game that I've got written down is South Pemiscot at Scott City, 49-67.
We found out what we were trying to find out about that one too. Scott City just put it on them, especially the second half. Second half, they just dominated that game, and clearly we're the better team. Mm-hmm. Clearly, and South Pem, we're still trying to figure out where they're at, and I think we're kind of getting that impression a little bit. Maybe they aren't as good as what we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. They're not a bad team, just not what we thought they were going to be. But Scott City, again, I think they're the real deal. I think they're a very good team. They've only got a couple of losses, and those are good losses in my opinion. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think Scott City's a really good basketball team. I think they're getting better as the year goes along. That game against Cape Central, even though they lost by 2, is looking better and better as Cape Central continues to win big games against really good opponents and they're beating them by more than what they beat Scott City. So, Scott City I think their resume just keeps looking better and better.
It really does. I mean, they're very consistent, and that loss to Cape Central, I don't know if it was just a lapse in judgment or what, but I think they're really expecting to go to overtime.
Yeah, and that was a tough loss, but I mean, it was again, you don't. And I know coaches don't have good losses, but I think that's a good loss. Even though number one, I mean, you played a really good team close, and number 2, you can learn from that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a game that you can learn how to, at the end of a game situation, you can learn from that. So I think that's I think that's a game that has only helped Scott City. I know they're playing in the Scott-Miss tournament, and probably you're going to get, I would assume, East Prairie in that championship game. East Prairie is another good team. They beat them by 7 a couple of weeks ago, and I expect that to be another close game. We expect that. Who knows what you're going to get in these championship games, but. I think Scott City's a good team, and we'll see how they play out the rest of the season. But I think they're just getting better.
Friday games, I've got Poplar Bluff and Cape Central, 35-51.
Cape Central they're not impressive with their scores. Everything is like 50-30, 44-34. They're not impressive, but as much as I give them, all kinds of the business because they're not playing the way I want to see them play, they're playing well. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're guarding very well. They've figured out, I think they've got their identity of what they're wanting to do on offense. The players have bought into it. I think this is a team that I think is going to be completely different whenever they play Sikeston. The next time is whenever they played them in the SEMO Conference tournament. I think they're a team that style. I think is a style that's going to give Sikeston a little problem. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think it's good. I think they're going to be a lot more competitive than they were that first game. And because I think they bought into this style of play, and man, they get after and guard you. And there's not a weak defender on that team.
No, and yeah, I think the adjustments they made, and you could see that against Jackson too. Whenever they played them, it's just like, okay, they know. And that was the issues they had, like during the SEMO conferences, like lack of identity was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And and it's a new coaching situation. You have to kind of rebuild your confidence with your team just in that season. So for them to be where they're at now, they're going to give Sikeston a better game than they did the first time they met up. I'll say that. I don't know what that score is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win that game, but I think it's going to be a better game. And I think just because Cape Central's bought into that mentality of this is who we are, we're not going to be running up and down the floor. You're not going to get us into that game. Sikeston got them into that game the first time. I don't think they're going to get them into that game the second time. I think that's the way they've been playing. Jackson tried it. They're just not going to do it. They're going to spread the floor offensively, and they're going to try to take you to the basket, and you better be able to guard them man to man. And, Sikeston is a man to man team. So, that they've kind of made that switch in the last couple of years. So we'll see how that, matches up. But I think it's going to be a much better game than it was in that SEMO conference tournament for sure.
The other game I've got listed is Neelyville at South Iron, 61-56.
Yeah, people better take notice of this Neelyville team. That district is just getting tougher by the day because this Neelyville team they're for real. I mean, beating South Iron, that's a huge win, and Neelyville is just on a roll right now. And you better not overlook them if you're down south. They probably won't get a great seed in that tournament just because of their record. But that's a team that I would not want to play if I was in that district.
What's their current record? Is it 16-10?
Oh, I think it's like 9-10. I think
so it just keeps getting.
Yeah, I think they're on an 8 or 9 game win streak. But I think it's
strength of schedule at the start. I mean, play your hardest games first and take those as learning opportunities and be where you're at now.
Lost a lot of close games early, and then suddenly you start winning these games and you get that confidence, and then you play these teams and now you're winning. I mean, because South Iron's a good team. I mean, anybody who thinks that they're not is not paying attention. South Iron's a really good team, and that's a great win. And I believe it was on the road as well. I mean that's Neelyville. I'm telling you, don't overlook them down south. I know the Bootheel likes to talk about how they're but Neelyville could go down there and surprise some people. That's
possible. I'd like to. I can't. That's why I can't wait for districts once they roll around. Just because I want to see what these teams look like when they're forced to match up.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting for sure down there because Neelyville is not a team that's going to play a lot of those schools down there. So they're not going to be very familiar with Neelyville, and you may just look at their record and be like, we'll be fine, and maybe not.
Let's move on to Bootheel a little bit because these games are all lopsided, but I think it shows you who kind of the big dogs in your conference are. Hayti and Portageville, 35-79.
Yeah, Hayti rolled. It's kind of what you would expect. And Hayti, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Hayti and Campbell play for this championship.
I can see that.
I think Hayti. And I want to see them play again because I want to see if Hayti can play Campbell the way they did the first time. If it make all those shots and everything, because that was pretty impressive whenever they played them the first time.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would be mad about seeing that game again.
No, I'd love to see it,
especially after Campbell's kind of in their pop-off stage. They're rolling. I don't know what win streak they're on right now. I want to say this is their 5th.
Yeah, 5th or 6th because they haven't lost since Hayti right after I think that was their first game out back after Christmas. So they're Campbell's definitely rolling, and of course they got the bye, so they didn't have to play a first round game, and that's the benefit of being a 1 seed.
And then South Pemiscot versus Zenith, 72-55.
Yeah, Campbell will get South Pem, and that'll be a good game. I think. I think Campbell's better. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see South Pem win that game. I mean, South Pem's a team that can win. They've been scoring better, with the exception of the Scott City game. And Scott City brings a different challenge because of their height and stuff. That's a tough challenge for a South Pem. But they've been scoring a lot better. So we'll see how they match up against Campbell. I think Campbell's just got a little too many scores for them. I think, the South Pem's really going to have to get out and guard them really well at all 5 positions. But, it ought to be a good game.
And then Crothersville versus Malden, 70-46.
Yeah, poor Malden. I mean, they got to get a win, right? I mean, some point they've got to get a win here
And help your confidence.
Yeah, I mean, they're so young, just playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores. It really should be on JV. But at the same time, you know, that's who you are right now. That's who you are, and you've got to get some wins. But Crothersville just taking care of business. Crothersville, it had been a while since Crothersville played because of some sickness and stuff been going on at their school. So it was good to see them playing and getting some games in. And I'm sure they weren't. I'm sure they weren't hitting on all cylinders. I mean, when being out for that long, they've been kind of rusty. So it was good to get a game in for them before they play Hayti, and that's a big rivalry game. We'll see how that plays out. Boy, that's a no love loss. It's kind of like a Dexter Burney no love loss between those two schools. Yeah,
and I consider these top 4 schools in the Boot Heel Conference. I mean, they just beat up on each other either. The disparity between what we see in Stoddard County and Boot Heel is, you know, one team can just be a complete front runner in Stoddard County, but right now Boot Heel is just I feel like every team in this 4 selection is like beating each other.
Yeah, I don't see one team. I mean, Campbell obviously is the top seed, and they played really well. But again, Hayti got them, you know, at Campbell. So any of these teams can beat anybody on a given night. These 4 teams that are left. So I mean, this semifinals will be a really nice semifinal night, and hopefully you got good games down there. You know, and some good close games go down to the wire.
Yeah, I don't know. That one's exciting to watch, and I really want to see who's going to come out on top on that tournament.
Yeah.
And then Scott, Mississippi. Let's talk about that a little bit. Chaffee, 64. Scott County Central, 45.
Yeah, this is pretty much chalk. I mean, really, their top 3 is, I think, the ones you kind of look at here, and Chaffee's one of those top 3. They took care of Scott Central, and they're just, you know, Chaffee's having a good year. We don't talk about them here much, but Chaffee's having a really nice year. They've got some good players. Are they as good as some of these a couple of these other, you know, East Prairie and Scott City? I don't think so, but we'll find out. I mean, they took Jackson, you know, to the wire in the Christmas tournament, so they have that ability to play really well. And, you know, so we'll see how they play Tuesday night. But this was a good win for them over Scott Central. And they, you know, they're going to have their first winning season in a few years.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for us, it's hard to gauge a lot of teams just because we don't really see them on our broadcast more often than not. I mean, unless we went to Orion, we wouldn't have seen Chaffee play all year, which that's just consequence of what kind of setup we have to do and how far we have to go. But it is nice to see teams like that in the mix, especially. And for this tournament, like you said, they're in that top 3. And yeah, I think it's a decent performance from them.
Yeah.
And then moving on, Scott City 93, Oak Ridge 37.
Yeah, Scott City just being Scott City there, taking care of business, moving on.
That's a beat up game. And then East Prairie 103 and Kelly 78.
Yeah, Kelly's fallen on hard times. They were a good team last year. They just lost everybody. And East Prairie just you can't. They're tough to run against. If you get out and they're a team that if they start running and get up and down the floor, they're tough to beat just because that's their wheelhouse and they just thrive off that. And Kelly likes to play up tempo too, and that just plays right into East Prairie's hands.
Yeah, and I think for East Prairie, I mean, at this point, do you think they've kind of broken that narrative that they're an up and down team? Because I feel like they're mostly on the up right now.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, they didn't play well in a couple games in the Christmas tournament, and then their only other loss is to Scott City, and that was a good game. I mean, it was a close game. So yeah, I'm not. You know, East Prairie is what we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. And if you would have told me that they were going to have I think they're 15-3 right now. If you'd have told me they would be 15-3 right now, I'd been like, yeah, that's probably kind of about what I expect, somewhere around there. So yeah, I think they're pretty much what we thought they were going to be, and they're a good team. And I think style wise, they love to get up and down the floor. Scott City will bring, you know, they'll kind of slow it down a little bit against them. I think they did the first time, and so we'll see how that if those two teams match up. You know, Chaffee will try to slow it down on them, so we'll see how that works.
And then the last game that day was Orion 87, Delta 73.
Yeah, these are two. I mean, they're pretty good teams. But they're just not at the level of the Scott City and East Prairies, and just. They're just not there, but they're not bad teams. It's just you know, and it was a really good game. They're teams that are you know, very familiar with each other, and just you know, Orion was able to pull it out, and Orion will play Scott City, and you know, I'm sure they'll give them their best shot, but I think Scott City's you know 15-20 points better.
I feel like this is Scott City's tournament to lose at this point.
I agree, especially playing at home as well. I am anxious to see that East Prairie game. I know East Prairie wants to beat them. That's become a pretty good rivalry the last few years between those two because they are so good, and so we'll see how they match up. But I think it's been a while since East Prairie's won this tournament. I don't know exactly, but I think it's been a while. So it'd be interesting to see how they come in.
Last game I want to talk about is Sikeston and Bour-Behr.
Yeah, Sikeston, another loss to a pretty good team. I think this is not a normal Bour-Behr team. It's just really, really good. I mean, Sikeston and Bour-Behr have had some matchups over the years that have been really, really good. But this is not one of those great Bour-Behr teams. It's a good Bour-Behr team, not a great one. Sikeston just had the lead for most of the game. Fourth quarter, Bour-Behr started, they hit their threes. I think they hit 10 threes in the game.
Seemed like they got their confidence back.
Yeah, and I mean, they were just Bour-Behr just made the plays at the end, and Sikeston didn't. Murray didn't play; he was sick or something, and then of course Sadler left the game about midway through, I think, the game because he re-aggravated an ankle injury. But a game I think that Sikeston still probably should have won. I don't think they played with the energy they needed to play with. It's just. Another team that I felt was just, Bour-Behr came out with more energy and Sikeston didn't match it, especially in the second half. And you got to be able to, when a team brings an energy like that, we've talked about it multiple times in the last couple pods about the teams that have come out with a lot of energy. Puxico came out with a lot of energy, against Woodland and stuff. You got to match it. Yeah. If you don't, you're already behind the eight ball. And I didn't think Sikeston did. And it's another loss to a good team. So, I don't know. We'll see where this Sikeston team fares. As they go through, they still got a lot of tough games left. There's obviously they've got to get some things fixed, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, let's talk about some upcoming games. So Monday, Richland plays Puxico at Puxico.
Well, again, if Puxico plays the way they did Friday and they continue that on, Richland's got to. And if Richland plays the way they've been playing, this is a turbo clock game, just easily. Yeah. I don't know if that's what we're going to get, though. I mean, you're going to have a little bit of a letdown if you're Puxico, I would assume. I mean, it's just human nature to have a little bit of a. I'm not saying they're going to lose to Richland. I don't think that for a second. I think Richland comes out, or Puxico comes out and wins this game, but I don't know if they're going to play just lights out the way they did against Woodland. I mean, in the couple nights later against a Richland team, it's kind of just really struggling, and I don't. They're winning games, but they don't look impressive doing it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, for Puxico at this point, like you said, you wouldn't expect them to play lights out, but who knows? I mean, maybe you just want to roll the rest of your season.
And if you do, great. I mean, that's fantastic.
Break any narrative that we might have about you and just destroy every team in front of you.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a team that's just sitting there. Just looks like. I mean, again, they've not played well. I mean, something seems wrong with them the last week, and whatever it may be.
Something about Stoddard County teams too. They just can't beat them.
Maybe, I don't know. They just did not look great in the Stoddard County tournament. And if they play that way against this Puxico team, and Puxico plays the way they did, this game's going to be ugly quick. And again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Richland's going to come. They're going to play better. And again, Puxico, I think they'll play well, but maybe not out of their minds the way they played against Woodland. But I think Puxico wins this game 10, 15 points.
Yeah, I think that's fair assessment. Tuesday, Dexter at Sikeston.
Yeah, is Dexter feeling sick? They want to cancel this game?
I mean, maybe.
I mean, they might. I mean, you don't know. Maybe have some fevers and stuff, and they just can't play this game. I mean, because otherwise, I think Sikeston. You're getting Sikeston off of a loss, and they've already beaten you by like 40 points or something like that earlier in the year. It's just like, oh man, the worst thing that could have happened to Dexter is Sikeston losing to Bour-Behr, and Sikeston's coming back home where they haven't played in seems like forever.
Where they play amazing.
And they play great at home. Yeah, you're right. So I mean, yeah. So good luck, Dexter. And I'd love to see them give Sikeston a game, but I don't think it's going to be much of a game. And
then Woodland at Advance.
Again, Advance. I think they're going to get a ticked off Woodland team. I mean, if I'm Coach Kinder, these practices after that Puxico game are pretty intense. I'm going to be getting after them, and you're going to be, really talking about, how tough are you, and really getting into there. And if I'm a coach, I want to come out and beat Advance by 1,000,000 if I can, just to get your team back in the right frame of mind. We'll see. I mean, Advance is not a terrible team. I mean, they're not at all. It's just
almost beat Richland.
Yeah. And I mean, so, I don't want to just sleep on Advance. It's just they're terrible. But I mean, if you're Woodland, you want to come out just, on fire and just go crazy. So we'll see how that one plays out. But I expect Woodland to come out and play well.
Definitely think they're going to be frustrated.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I've got Donovan at Neelyville.
Again, I don't want to play Neelyville if I'm anybody right now. Just they're playing well. So we'll see. I expect Neelyville to continue their win streak here and take care of Donovan. I'm anxious to see Neelyville is going to probably get Puxico. If they continue this way, they'll get them in the OFC tournament here in a couple of weeks, maybe in that championship game. And we'll see how, that'll be two Class 2 teams that matching up there, and you get one on the rise for sure. And then, obviously we know Puxico is going to be one of the favorites in Class 2 from around here. So we'll see how they match up for sure. That's a game I kind of want to see now. I want to see this Neelyville team continue to roll and match up against that Puxico team. Yeah,
we don't really talk about Neelyville that much just because they've been so under the radar, and I think their records help with that, but it keeps you a sleeper team. And, at this point, and you talked about it, with Puxico, it's just like, if you're going to be good now. Mm-hmm. And, for Neelyville, it's like, if you're going to be good now.
Yeah,
and
both teams seem to be peaking at the right time.
Yeah, and I just think this is where we start probably analyzing Neelyville a lot more than we have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then moving on, we got Twin Rivers at Boerne.
Yeah, this game was close early in the year in the Boerne tournament, Campbell tournament, whatever it was, whatever that tournament was at the beginning of the year. That was close. I just feel like Boerne's really improved since then. I feel like Boerne takes care of business here and, kind of handles Twin Rivers.
Yeah, I could see that. I just don't really know about Twin Rivers at this point. They're there.
I know I picked them to win once and they got beat like 40 points. So Boerne's my pick here.
I think that's fair. We've seen Boerne progress throughout the year. Beat Dexter, lost to Dexter, but that's
par for the course. But even in good years.
That's always a competitive game. So, when teams play out of their minds for that rivalry, they just play different. But I think for Boerne, overall with the opponents that they face, they're being more consistent. They're growing as a team. Their team cohesion's just getting better. So they're a threat for most teams they play at this point.
Yeah, and if they can hit their outside, if you get Hopgood and Morgan going at the same time with Aycock in the middle, that's a tough ask for the other team. Because they can light it up.
And then last on my listing for Tuesday, I've got Charleston and Jackson.
I'm very interested to see. Jackson should win this game. Their height advantage in this game is just significant. But Charleston poses problems for teams because they just get after them so defensively, and they're so quick, and they can shoot the ball a little bit. And I think Jackson wins this game, but I think Charleston can keep it fairly close. I don't. It's at Jackson, so Charleston plays much better at home than they do on the road. Mm-hmm. I think Jackson wins this game, but I'd be anxious to see how well Charleston can play them.
Yeah, and we've said this all year is that Charleston, might not start out strong, but they just get better and better as postseason approaches. And I think this is another good game for them to play just because, toughen up your schedule.
Yeah, Charleston just plays tough team after tough team after tough team. There's just really no. If you look at their schedule, they just really don't play a lot of games where they're just playing a team that's just that much. Then they're that much better than. Usually they're playing teams that are really good. And, that's why when you come to district time, they are so tested, and they have played so many good teams and usually have improved by so much because they're playing those good teams. It's just, that's why they've won 14 straight district titles. And so people just don't understand, people tend to just look at records, and they don't look at what makes up those records, and they see that, Charleston lost to Dexter earlier in the year. And I'm like, do you really think that Charleston, if they played Dexter right now, is losing to Dexter? I just don't see that happening. It's just not. You catch Charleston early, not late, and that's just man, I just, again, Jackson, I think, wins this game, but that's a Class 6 against a Class 2 school. Jackson's supposed to win this game, and I think they will, but I'm just anxious to see how well Charleston plays them.
And then let's talk about Bootheel. Campbell and South Pemiscot.
I'm looking forward to it. I think that'll be a good game. I think I'm excited to see that game. Really want to see a good game. I think Campbell's a little bit better. I just think they've got couple more weapons than what South Pemiscot brings. But if South Pemiscot wins this game, I would not be in the slightest bit shocked. I mean, it's, again, like you said, these teams beat up on each other. And so I think that I think it's going to be a good game, good semifinals. And I think these are some semifinals that'll be very close.
Yeah. And if South Pemiscot beats Campbell, it would just complete this circle of, I don't know who's the best team in this conference.
Again, you can just, I think in any given night, any of these teams can beat the other. And you just don't know. You better bring your A game when you're playing these games.
And then you talked about it briefly, but Crothersville versus Hayti.
Yeah, I think Hayti wins this game. I think, I really like the way Hayti playing, especially after Christmas. They just have been playing really well. And so we'll see. This is a rivalry game that you can throw records out the window regardless. And they're both good teams. Just whichever team brings their A game is going to win this game. And they're going to get after each other. Again, it reminds me a lot of Dexter Burney. If Hayti wins this game, I was going to put my money on Crothersville the next game, back and forth like that, because these two teams match up very well against each other. So, just want to see some good games in this one. And again, it wouldn't shock me to see any of these four teams in the finals.
Hey, it's called the Battle of the Bootheel for a reason.
That's right. It's a battle. It is for sure a battle this year.
And then final game I've got listed, this one's for Wednesday, is Woodland at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's just had, they went 0-3 out at that Nixa tournament. Kind of got blown out the first game, played two close games on the way out, and just lost them. And I don't know. I would favor Woodland in this game. I'm just not real high on Notre Dame. I just not high on them this year. I thought they would be a lot better than what they are. But they're another team. They play tough teams. They went over Springfield or Nixa and playing tough teams. We'll see about the toughness of Woodland in that game. I think because Notre Dame's going to play. They're a tough team. As far as just toughness, they've got the inside outside game. We'll see how Woodland plays them. But I hope Woodland plays them well, because then that makes me look better by being high on Woodland for most of this year. But I really don't know how. It's going to be very key to see how Woodland responds to this beating they took by Puxico.
Yeah, and I just don't really have a score assessment to give you. This could go either way in my mind at this point. And not to say that it's just like, I just don't care about this game, but it's harder to be high on either team. Yeah,
I'm going to have eyes on this game just to see how they come out, because Notre Dame, they're kind of up and down to me. You never know what you're going to get for them.
That's a lot of teams this year.
And I just don't feel like Notre Dame's real consistent. So I am anxious to see. I feel like what I've seen from both teams, Woodland is better, but I don't know. I know Notre Dame will probably try to slow them down, but who knows? I just don't have a gauge on this game.
If I had to, it's just funny to hear you say that, because I've heard you say that before, and I've said it before, is Woodland looks better, and then who knows what happens right after that.
Because, Puxico punched them in the mouth, and Woodland just went in the corner. Notre Dame's definitely going to do that. Notre Dame's definitely going to come out and play physical and get after you and stuff. How does Woodland respond? Is it just a one-time thing where just, things just snowballed and went against them? Or is that who they are? Are they a soft team? And that's kind of what I'm anxious to find out. The eye test tells me that Woodland just kind of looks better, but that doesn't mean that they are. And then Puxico, I thought they looked better than Puxico, and Puxico proved that they weren't. So, we're going to find out a lot about Woodland here coming up in the next few weeks.
We're going to have to, and it sounds like we're being hypercritical about it, but I don't want to say it like this, but at the same time, it's like we put a lot of stock in Woodland for a lot of weeks. Yeah. And I just got to watch them not behave like the team I thought they were from the baseline. I got to see it up close and personal. I got to watch, a team that I'm not going to say I'm not high on, but, you know, I'm kind of put in the corner a little bit of just like, you're there, but I'm not really paying attention to you. I got to see them perform in their best game possible. So it's just, you know, it's kind of flip-flop for me. It's just, I need to see more, but now I'm kind of watching things with a more skeptical eye than I was before.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I just want to see how they respond. That's my biggest thing is I want to see how they respond to this loss. Do you come out? Are you ticked off? Are you getting after it and really improving and making some adjustments, trying to be a little bit tougher? Was this just a one-off game, or is this who they are? Are they just not a game that's a team that's going to play in these tough games like that? Are they just not going to be up to the challenge? We'll see. I'm hoping that they're up for the challenge and this is just a one-off and they learn from this game and respond well. I think this Notre Dame is going to be a huge game to kind of tell that.
Yeah, and like you said, I just think for Woodland, this is your proving ground. You have to get back to where you think you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. Any final thoughts for the week?
No, just I'm anxious for some of these games, and I'm just glad we're kind of past all the sickness stuff, and we're moving on. And you know, we're here in February, man. It's coming soon. These districts are just a few weeks away, and it's just right around the corner. Yeah,
and I know for A-Corp sports, we're still in marathon season. It feels like it never ends, but yeah, we're getting towards that ending stretch. And man, March is going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, but I mean, these districts, you know, we've been talking about these districts for weeks, and now they're here. I mean, they're just right around the corner. So, yeah, there's just final jockeying for position. You're just trying to play well and peaking at the right time. And some of these teams like Puxico, that it seemed like hopefully they are.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode. We'll catch you on Thursday. Thank you for listening.